This video is one in a series of 3 concerning the Feud of the Faithful and Starward Gaze questlines. In it, we'll be looking at the Vital Strike Forester build that I've been using in my playthrough, and which quest route suits its best. A bit of a warning, this is a very gimmicky, experimental build for Act 1. I would not necessarily recommend it. The build featured in the next video is much more reliable. With that said, let's take a look at the first 9 levels of the build. You might notice that past the initial levels, there's quite a lot of feats and features that are either prerequisites or not useful right now, since this is a solo build that includes all teamwork feats. It's even more evident if we categorize the features and only include the ones that are actually useful during this part of the game. At its core, this is a heavy crossbow Vital Strike and Vital Force build. All of our damage comes from weapon damage and sneak attack dice. At level 3, the output is already very high, thanks to these features listed here. However, progression keys for a while afterwards. A greater Vital Strike does not arrive until level 9, and while Sense Vitals is strong, it only lasts 1 round per caster level. At this stage of the game, when spell slots and rests are limited, that makes it fairly expensive to use. Our attack bonus improves a little more beyond level 3. We gain Cat's Grace at level 5, along with small gradual increases through base attack bonus progression. Still, level 6 amounts to just +1 base attack bonus, and level 7 gives us nothing. But defensively, and here we get to the gimmicky part, the build relies heavily on kiting. Once we leave Defender's Heart at level 4, we take Long Strider, which provides just enough movement speed to comfortably guide most enemies on larger maps, such as the Market Square. At level 8, we hit the build's major power spike, Camouflage. This allows us to tease encounters, provided we can either stay outside enemy perception range or consistently past stealth checks. Note that Camouflage only works in favored terrain. Act 1 is entirely urban, but afterwards the terrain becomes more varied. So the build transitions back into a more conventional backline role with a party. This, however, is outside the scope of this video. Level 8 is by far the biggest jump in power for the build and opens up encounters that were previously impracticable or outright impossible. After completing spies amidst our ranks, Stolen Moon, and clearing the area outside the Silken Thread Atelier, we arrive at the Market Square, having just reached level 5. From there, the goal is simple: reach level 8 as quickly and efficiently as possible. We care much less about levels 6 and 7, since aside from a few additional spell slots, they offer relatively little. So with that in mind, let's look at which quest route best supports this goal. The Peaceful route offers the fastest and easiest completion of Feud of the Faithful, and for some builds that can matter. For example, an initially weaker build that spikes at level 6 could reach that breakpoint more safely by completing Feud this way. In my case, however, the build is quite strong early on. Very strong early on, actually. And I've accumulated a fair amount of extra experience before even arriving at the Market Square, and I'm well able to take on the early fights on it. As such, I'll reach level 6 simply by helping the Thieflings, even without completing Feud. More importantly, level 6 itself does not benefit this build very much. Also remember that the actual experience gained from completing Feud immediately rather than switching to a route with a higher total experience is only 69 or 414 solo experience. The equivalent to killing 4 giant flies. That can be enough to push someone over the line to level 6, but it matters far less for reaching level 7, never mind level 8, which is what we actually care about. Getting from level 7 to level 8 requires as much experience as going from level 5 to level 7 combined. No matter which route we choose, we are going to need both questlines and additional content to get there. Since the peaceful route gives the least experience overall, it will thus require us to do the most extra encounters to reach level 8 afterwards. In practice, that means more difficult fights before we hit our major power spike, despite the easier quest. Because of this, the routes I'm primarily considering are the Kill Hulrun and Kill Both variants, since they provide the most experience. Now, Hulrun is normally a very tough enemy, and that alone might discourage these routes. But in this case, my character has an unusually easy time fighting him. As a kiter, slow enemies are easy targets, and Hulrun is incredibly slow due to the exhausted condition. By contrast, this build struggles against ranged enemies, which actually makes the usually easier kill Ramien route less appealing. Another point in favor of killing Hulrun. On the other hand, this same weakness also makes the Nino encounter more dangerous than usual. There is limited space to kite, and 2 ranged enemies are involved. So reaching level 8 before leaving the market square would be valuable, which requires killing Ramien. The question then is whether we can realistically reach level 8 inside the market square by taking the Kill Both route. There is one important limitation here. Until we get camouflage, indoor encounters in the market square are off the table. That means the extra experience would need to come mainly from the tougher outdoor encounters, such as the southwest fights past the church or the necromancer encounter in the northwest, in addition to killing Ramien. And even if the experience is enough, are those extra fights actually easier than simply leaving the market square earlier and dealing with the Nino encounter? Especially because once we get past Nino, we gain access to some low-risk experience sources, meaning the non-combat rewards at the Blackwing Library. As it turns out, the Kill Both route fails on both counts. The required fights are generally harder, and we still fall short of level 8. Because of that, the smoothest progression path for this build seems to be the Kill Hulrun route. With that settled, let's move on to the actual playthrough. When entering the market square, there's only one mandatory fight between the entrance and the debris bridge we need to cross to reach Hulrun on the other side. However, with this character, I take a few additional fights along the way, partly to get to Kelesa for the easy but considerable experience reward. Past the bridge, there are some giant vermin. An easy way to deal with them is simply to run north into the field beside the tower. There, a group of Canarbrus crusaders all are already fighting more vermin. One of them, a paladin with a mithril shield, higher level than the others, can comfortably handle the extra enemies without you having to lift a finger. Once back on the bathed section, we run into Hulrun and Ramien arguing. If we want the option to convince Hulrun to leave Ramien alone later, we need to reveal the light of heaven. Otherwise, Hulrun will attack us when we later speak up for Ramien. The first dialogue option past that leads to an Arcana check, which grants some experience. the rest is mostly flavor dialogue. We can now proceed towards Ramien. You do not actually need to fight the enemies in the center of the market square. You can simply skirt around the edges. While doing so, it makes sense to detour towards the Thieflings, trapped under the rubble. For this character, rescuing them is enough to reach level 6. From there, we continue around the edge to find Ramien. He is invisible, but if you walk right up to him, you will discover him even with low perception. Next, we ask Ramien about the feud and offer to help resolve it. This unlocks the option to convince Hulrun. Immediately after speaking with Ramien, Ilkes appears. We agree to help him find the other 2 adepts and begin the Starward Gaze quest. We then head back towards Hulrun to complete the peaceful portion of Feud of the Faithful. In this playthrough, however, I first clear a few market square encounters. Normally it is better to take the non-combat experience immediately, especially if you are uncertain about when you'll reach the next level. In this case, though, it would not matter, even if the extra experience pushed us to level 7 between fights. The level up provides us no benefit until we rest to recover spell slots. Eventually we do return to Hulrun and convince him to agree to a temporary truce, which grants a substantial amount of experience. Combined with the fights we just completed, this pushes us to level 7. Now it is time to rest and leave the market square. Next we return to Defender's Heart. The reason is the forced Nino encounter that triggers the first time you leave the market square. Since we are playing solo, we want to drop her off at the tavern. Otherwise we could have gone to the next destination immediately. The Aranka party house. Inside the party house we find Aranka, one of the adepts. She provides both the information and the item needed to locate the final adept, Wallflower, back in the market square. After a few additional detours, we return there. Wallflower is disguised as one of the Crusaders involved in that very first fight we had between the market square entrance and the debris bridge. Once we speak to him, Hulrun appears with 3 Inquisitors. While we can persuade him to spare Wallflower, the highest experience route requires us to kill Hulrun and his men instead. Fortunately, they are all slow and easy to kite, especially Hulrun, thanks to his exhausted condition. He is also suffering from negative levels. Afterwards, we speak to Wallflower again and proceed to the Desnan Temple. If you want to unlock the Azata mythic path and recruit Arusale early at level 8, you must sing along with the adepts. Once outside, we speak to Ramien, informing him of Hulrun's death, grants another chunk of experience and resolves Feud of the Faithful. At this point we hit level 8, our target level. Time to start teasing encounters. I'll be honest, getting some meaningful use out of camouflage requires a lot of building and planning around, and its usefulness is fairly temporary. A Shrouded Step is incomparably stronger, but then that ability is something of an outlier.